So this is an oil line for the turbo, and I've obviously cleaned it because it was dirty, but you could see where it's leaking from the crimp, inside of the crimp. When I went to remove it, I noticed it was covered in oil. I don't know how well this camera is gonna focus, but it definitely needs to be re-crimped. And then this is another little hose it has on the turbo they recently installed, and this is a coolant hose. It's not the best hose to use for oil. They needed to use a power steering hose, a hydraulic hose, not a radiator hose, but we'll get that replaced. It's not that the hose itself is busted, it's that you could already see it starting to swell, and this hose wasn't even on here very long. These clamps ain't no good. Want to get rid of them, get the appropriate size clamp for both sides, matching clamps, get that back on. That needs to be secure. Let me show you where this stuff goes. Okay. See that bolt right there? With the washers. There's two of them. Copper one on the bottom, silver one up top. Highly recommend getting those washers new too. And they flatten out and then they don't work that well. So this line will attach here. Let's see if I can flip this turbo around. It will attach to that right there, and then it runs down over here to the side of the engine block. And then this will bolt to the engine block over here. So it goes like that in that position. Like this. And this will run underneath the turbo, and this will run up against the engine block like that. Now this bolt, this tiny little bolt, bolts the line, secures it to the engine block, a little 10mm bolt. It didn't even have one there. Didn't even have one there. And you can see where it's pulled out right there. It's just, this thing was leaking bad. You can see how it's wet all here, under here, from that leaking out. Then you have this one that attaches to there, and then that bolts to the engine block also, right? And it has a little gasket that goes back there too. And then it attaches over here to this side on the opposite end. It'll attach there. So we need this guy and this guy. Those two. 1, 2, that's the holdup. Now you say, well, what if I don't replace that? What if I just put those on? Well, I guarantee you, you're going to be getting back under here because it's going to leak. You're going to lose pressure. The oil's not going to spool. It's not going to work right. It's not going to be good. So, it's something you definitely want to do. Keep in mind, once this is all put back together, you're going to have the bracket for the engine mount there, and you're gonna have the starter inside of it here, and then the manifold up top. It's very tight in here, very, very tight. There's like little to no access at all. So this is the time to do that. You don't want to do that later. You got these new motor mounts installed and ready to go on both sides. Got everything cleaned up. You got that half shaft back in. You got the clutch installed. Got everything cleaned up here. I was able to transfer all the lower section from that engine over to this engine. Your hoses, your oil filter housing, all that was already installed and passed over. All this was cleaned up inside of here. I don't know how well you can see in there. All that was cleaned up. Cleaned all that up. Compared to this side, oh my God, it's so bad in here. I don't know how well. Yeah, it's pretty bad in there. It's pretty cruddy in there. Let's see if I can get closer and show you the valves. Yeah, they're pretty caked up. This is why I do not like these direct port fuel injection motors. The amount of gunk that builds up inside of them is horrible. I mean, this stuff is thick. Stuff is pretty thick. Look at the cake on the top of that valve, man. That is some serious cake built up. So yeah, you got that nastiness all up inside of there. Got the original intake off. I'm gonna put the new intake on. This is the direct port fuel injection intake manifold getting ready to go on. It needs to be cleaned. It's pretty dirty. It's pretty dirty in there. Got this mosquito hovering around me while I'm trying to record. He just wants to be on the video. You know, you can tell how oily that is. It's pretty bad. And you know, this is the old gasket that came off. And you can see it was pretty nasty too. So anyways, I need another box of brake parts cleaner from O'Reilly's. I went through the whole box, 12 cans, and just cleaning up that. Because that was horrible. Like the transmission was dirty all the way back in there. Like it was bad. It was bad. So we got that all cleaned up. But now we're out of brake cleaner to work on cleaning this up. I used a can of carburetor cleaner to clean this bracket before I installed it last night. And I cleaned this cover up with the last little drop of just some gasoline I had on a brush. So I got this timing cover on the new engine because the timing cover that it came with was broken. So I put that on the old engine, put the new gasket on that, had all that sealed up, ready to go. Really, it's just a matter of put the intake on this side and then put the turbo on the other side, drop it in the hole and slap it back together, right? But I really don't want to, I mean, I got everything else secured, everything down here ready, intake bracket, everything ready to just pop that in. And I have the new gasket for that ready to go in. But I don't know, these things build up carbon intake. Like I was showing y'all, I got the inside of this one pretty clean. It's a lot cleaner than that one. So they do an intake cleaning thing. I was watching a video on it. You make sure that the valves are closed so nothing falls inside the cylinder. And they got some fluid you fill it up with and then suck it out. You know, pretty much get all that gunk out. They do an intake clean. You just gotta turn the engine over, make sure the valves are completely closed so nothing goes down. Obviously, make sure you get it all out, blow it out real good, blah, blah. So, I mean, that could be clean, but this needs a rebuild anyways. Piston rings are blown. This one I cleaned the best I could, and I don't have any like strong chemicals to get in there. Like I said, I'm out of brake cleaner. So I need to ask him for some money to go get another box of brake cleaner. And then I need to have him decide what we're doing with the turbo. I mean, he's going to spend a lot of money and labor to have these two things replaced later when they could easily be replaced now. And I know money's tight right now for everybody, but I've built plenty of projects myself and they never care if money's tight. When something is needed, it's just needed. So there's a place, forget the name of it, tip of my tongue. Anyway, there's a place over here close by that you bring this to them and they'll take this off and crimp a new one on, better quality, stronger, on, and give this right back to them with the new one on it already. And then this is just, I just need to go get some quality hydraulic pressure hose and some good clamps, and then that'll be that. And then I can bolt the turbo on the other side of the engine there, and get a box of brake cleaner, go through that intake. What I do is remove the throttle body off the intake, spray in from there, and get as much out as I can, spray in from this way, that way, get it all clean. I got some brushes and stick in there. You got to be careful with the little flaps if you're going to try to do that yourself. But anyways, get that intake nice and clean, put the gasket on it, bolt it up over there, Get those hoses I just showed you for the turbo, bolt that up, drop it in the hole. I need oil for the engine and a filter. Highly recommend Wix oil filter. The Wix XP makes the best oil filters. That's all I run, Wix XP filters, extended performance. So a new oil filter. He brought me some oil, but I don't think it's enough. He only brought me 4. I believe this engine holds more than 4 quarts. But he brought me 4 quarts of this AMSOIL. I think I'm gonna need at least 1 more quart, and obviously a new filter. I don't know what he's expecting for me to put just the oil and leave that nasty little Fram filter on there. Here's my intake gasket and my rear main seal gasket. Once I get everything bolted on this engine, I will lower this engine down and swap this engine over to that and do the rear main seal. Right now it's a little tight to get in there, and then that'll be the last thing, and just slap it on there. But yeah, this is a very poor quality Fram filter, guys. I take these filters and I hack them open, cut it open, and look inside to see how they hold up internally. And I've been so disappointed with the quality of a Fram filter. There's nothing good about Fram, trust me. When you look inside of them, you'll know what I'm talking about. They're built very cheaply. Wix, on the other hand, man, really strong spring, diaphragm, everything in there. The cartridge is just quality all the way. So I would put a Wix filter on here. The other thing is AMSOIL will warranty the engine if the engine fails due to oil lubrication, but they won't warranty it if you use the wrong filter. You either have to use an AMSOIL filter or an AMSOIL certified filter. And the Napa Gold series and the Wix filters are considered AMSOIL certified filters. So if you got a Wix filter or a Napa Gold, AMSOIL would warranty it. But with a Fram filter, Napa's gonna say you had the wrong filter and they're not gonna warranty it. So he needs to bring me an oil filter. He needs to bring me a box of brake cleaner, and he needs to bring me these 2 hoses. Everything here can be had quickly that I mentioned, except this. If he had to order this online, it would take a couple days before it even arrived. And I don't want to wait. So I think the best thing to do is to get that information on that place that will put that new crimped hose on there. And they got the hydraulic hoses, hydraulic pressure fittings. They do that real nice. I've taken them stuff. It was just a long time ago. I forget the name. But I looked them up. I think I have a card in my drawer, one of their cards. I'll look them up, give them a call, see what their availability is on having that dropped off and taken care of, how much it's going to cost and all that. Anyways, I'm going to let y'all go. I've rambled enough. Thanks for watching. We did what we said we were going to do in the previous video. Got that bolted up. Got everything ready to just pretty much drop the engine in. We would have had everything on this side transferred completely over, but I decided to stop because that intake just looked too nasty. Excuse me, guys. That intake looked way too nasty to install it dirty like that when it came off. And no brake cleaner, so we had to call it a night. But we'll get some brake cleaner. We'll put that on real quick, easy peasy. And then obviously, you know, you run into stuff. You never know what you're really running into until you take it apart. But that should be the last 2 things that we need, and then everything else should be good to go. Putting it back together, it's just when you take stuff apart, you run into stuff. And those were the last 2 things that needed to be taken apart. Nothing else needs to be taken apart. Everything else is put back together once that's put back on the engine wise. And then let's just carefully drop it back in and reconnect everything. So anyways, I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm hungry. I'm gonna go eat something. Thanks for watching. Keep y'all posted on another video. What is this, part 3? Yeah, so no, this is part 4. So see y'all on part 5. All right, God bless. Bye-bye.